pop up there.
Is there anybody that, is there anyone in? I can't see the numbers. Cool. Hello there, and welcome to Real Talk with Angry Soccer Mom. If you're watching, I'm thrilled to have you. Today's an exciting night because I'm going to have my friend Don come on and co-host in just a little bit. So let me know if you're here. Say hello. I'm very, very happy to be doing stuff tonight. Normally the show discussion topics include anything that you feel is newsworthy about racism, bigotry, inequality, or corruption in America. And for tonight, it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to try to stick to three main topics, which I will be telling you all about in just a few minutes. This show is meant to be an opportunity for viewers to speak their mind and to serve as an educational tool in cultural competency and many other things, hopefully, and also to serve as an educational tool for learning the truth about systemic racism in America. Lakeisha, welcome. Thanks for being here. Got a little slow start tonight, but I'm hoping people will trickle in. I have some quick announcements. Thrilled to have you here. Don's going to, I don't know if you heard, Don is going to, my friend Colonel Crumlin will be here, and hopefully just in a little while. We're going to have him come in a little bit later, and he and all his expertise will be able to tell us a whole bunch of things and answer any questions. Mahako, yay, thanks for being here. I'm excited to have you. I just wanted to make a few announcements to start. I just want to thank everybody for sending me constantly breaking news, because I can't keep up. One would think that I could somehow keep up after who has gone, but oh no, it's been crazy. So this is if you want to ever personal message me or send me breaking news that you think is important and needs to be posted immediately, send it right to there. And like I've mentioned on the last few shows, I'm very excited because I'm starting a live stream book discussion group where I will basically, so I don't break copyright, I'm going to do it so we all read a chapter. If you don't read it, okay, you didn't hear this from me, who cares, come anyway. And I will summarize the chapter really easily. And then we can discuss it. It's just going to be a half an hour program, and I haven't picked the night yet. And it's going to, let me see. Our first book right here is going to be kind of a basic one, but a very important one. It's White Privilege. Why is it so hard for white people to talk about racism? By Dr. Robin DiAngelo. And there's a foreword by Michael Eric Dyson. So that, and I'll stick that right back in there. And I'm very excited. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put out an invitation for that. And people can basically tell me if they think they want to be in it. It's only a half an hour. And we'll make a great time for everybody. Gary, welcome. Thanks for being here. Happy to have everybody. Sorry, I was a little bit late starting off. It's been crazy. So that's what I'm going to be planning. And I'm going to send around kind of an invitation to everybody I know who wants to maybe be in that. And it's a half an hour, and it's just basically a discussion. Anything you want to talk about, I'll do a really 2-minute summary of the chapter. And that'll be it. So I'm really excited about that. And even if you can't come to it, at least you can, watch it if you want to. Send it to somebody who you think needs it. That's nice, huh? But send it to somebody who you think could really use it, because I know lots of people who could really use it. Sorry, after this week, but all right. Also, I have really quickly, after Dawn comes on, if you want to call in, you can do that as well. So I'm going to put the phone number up there, but try to wait till Don gets here because I think he's the main one that people are going to want to be talking, asking questions about. And you can obviously ask me anything too, but he's the special guest that's going to be here later. So because I obviously don't have a screener, I'd love it if people who have things to say could try to stick to the topic that he's on, because otherwise we're going to be so confused. And I know you guys will do great. I have a wonderful, wonderful friends and viewers, so I'm excited about that. And before I bring him on, I wanted to show you something really special. It's a friend. Not yet, not yet. Almost. I see him. Oh, he flashed in for a minute. I wanted to show you something really special. And that is a friend of mine named Michael. The artist formerly known as Michael. His name's Michael. He is an artist and he draws, and he sent me some of his drawings. And so I wanted to show them to you. And I'm also going to post them. He's a really, really talented guy, and I was just really proud of him. So I'm going to just show, this is his first one. Here we go. I don't know if you can see it. That's his first drawing. And I just think he's amazing. So, and then here we have, who is it? It's Jimmy. And he did all these. And I think he's amazing. I mean, I'm not an artist, of any sort, but I think he's just absolutely amazing. And then he did one. This is the first one I saw of his, which I actually posted. And check it out. This is my friend Michael. I don't know if I'm getting it in here. I'll hold it back a little bit of glare. And yep, Jimi Hendrix. And then we have George Floyd. And Vicky Smalls. Here you go. Oop, I'll hold it back. I don't know if you can see it as well. Ta-da! There's that one. And this one's very cool. Who is it? Come on, guys. I know there's a glare, but you can do it. Mahako, is he awesome? I am just like, I am so honored to show his stuff. And of course I am going to hang them all up and do things to them. I'm going to put them in, Dom, hello, Dom's World. Hello, welcome. Welcome. Let me just see right here really fast if I can just sneak this over for a second. I'm just thrilled to be able to show Michael's things. Now, here's the tricky part. You're going to laugh at me. There's two that I don't know who they are, and they're fantastic. And I know you all are going to laugh in my face, but you know what? That's what I'm here for. So this one, I don't know who this is. I know I'm supposed to, but bad, naughty me. I'll give you a close up. Pretty freaking amazing drawing. So help me out, people. Who is it? Anybody? Extremely cool. And the last one, again, I left the last two because I don't know who they are. But I think I know who this is. It's like, hi, Jamie. Thanks for being here. So anyway, if you like his art, just put great art, Michael. I was just thrilled, beyond thrilled to be able to, get some of his art. He's really cool. So, and I think he sells his art too. I'm not sure. I'll look for a contact so that if you're interested in that as well, because I always like to, make sure that I promote, Black businesses, brown businesses, just things like that. And plus all my friends. So as much as I can. So that was my special project. And then today I have a quote of the week. A quote of the week. Let me just try to scooch this guy over a little bit. Okay. My quote of the week. And this is a strange quote, but this just hit me. And this is a quote from a couple weeks back. But hey, why not, right? So it's by David Wellerman, and it goes, this is the quote of the week. The fact that the Capitol was overrun and sacked, and there was no effort whatsoever to evacuate the president from Washington, D.C. to secure, to get him secure in a remote location, tells you all you need to know about who launched and directed the attack. No way would this ever happen otherwise. And food for thought right there. I think that kind of says it all. You know exactly what happens to a president when they're taken. When they're taken, when something's going on, they put him in a secluded, secure, remote location. He was sitting there partying, having a good old time. So this is incredibly damning. Tonight's topics are going to be a January recap that I'm going to do, and I might do that before I bring Don on. We're going to talk really briefly about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Does that ring a bell to anybody? And I am going to, Don and I are going to talk about facts and false equivalencies from the GOP, the fallout from the Capitol attack, Trump's second impeachment trial, and if we have time, we'll talk about Biden's speech on dismantling systemic racism, if we have time. And I am almost ready for you, Don. Are you in? Yes? I see Don.
I'm in. That's just my still screen.
I was like, you're not moving. All right. Would you like me to do part of the first part before, so you can, I have a little bit more.
Finish what you need to do, and I'll jump in whenever you ask.
Okay. Because what I can do is, I'm going to introduce Don in just a minute, but right now I wanted to do, it's a kind of a mini rant, and then I'm going to have Don jump right in. So I'm going to start, our first topic tonight is going to be the fallout, the consequences of this Capitol attack. So what I would like to do is just do a mini rant, and then I'm going to have the expert jump in and tell me and tell us, and you can ask him questions. You can even call in. So this week marks the fourth week of 2021, and whoever thought nothing could match the insanity of 2020 has got to be losing their mind by now. That would be me. In just the month of January, we've had Trump, the man in charge of the nukes, very terrifying, disappear from public view, pretty much gone, bye-bye. We've watched Trump pardon his corrupt friends while he pushed through federal executions of 5 more people on death row, 4 of which were black individuals. Very, very sick, knowing very well that Biden is against all cases of the death penalty. And it was unconscionable, but I won't get into that. We've had a terrorist attack on the Capitol, incited by the sitting president himself. We hit an awful benchmark of 400,000 people who died from COVID. We saw Trump get kicked off of social media after years and years of being given a free pass to do whatever he wants. We've had a president impeached for the second time. We've had 26,000 approximately National Guard troops in D.C. to protect the inauguration. We've had a successful inauguration of our 46th president under duress, but we've put up with his threats, his misinformation, his inhumanity, his conspiracies, QAnon, his terrorists. He's like a terrorist to his own people. So wouldn't it be amazing if we never had to say his name again? Raise your hand if you're in, because I'm in. I would love that. And unfortunately, it's just not going to happen. And I think everyone knows that. I'm not giving you any information that's new, but he still has 74 million indoctrinated people who prefer to live a lie about the election, about white supremacy, and so much more. I can't even name it all. Apparently, Donald Trump has reportedly opened his office of the former president this week in Florida. Whatever that means, I've read about it. This is crazy. I'm hoping that his office for the former president will be in a jail cell, personally. I believe he has committed crimes against humanity, personally. For if nothing else, God, if nothing, naming like 5 things, if nothing else, the COVID virus, if nothing else, the children that he allowed to die in his custody, first time in decades. Children have died in custody, decades. Okay, this was him. Um, I, I'm sorry. He is setting a precedent that is absolutely horrific, and I don't even know where to start. So before I engage our guests, I wanted to make sure we're all on the same page here about what we're up against. And okay, here it is. I'm just going to name some of it because it's a lot. Okay. We still have some Congress people who are touting the line about the election being a fraud. It's like, okay, no comment. We still have investigations into whether some of our politicians, our own politicians, were enablers of the terrorism on the Capitol on January 6th. Yesterday, the Senate showed us who is still terrified of Trump's wrath. And what they did was, do you remember anyone who crosses him is going to get primaried? In other words, kicked out of their office whenever their election comes up. Well, only 5 people, 5 Republican senators, said that the impeachment trial was constitutional. So I don't know what's going on, but all I can say is the GOP needs to make some serious choices. Are they going to be the party of Trump? Or are they going to try to actually adhere to our Constitution of the United States written by the founding fathers? I think they should make a choice and a decision. It's a long story. And we have at least one, obviously we have more, very, very vocal person in Congress. There's actually more, but this is the one I'm going to mention. Taking it upon himself to continue Trump's conspiracies within the new administration. On Biden's, I believe it was his first day. We can check that with Don because I know he knows about this. A newly elected Georgia representative, Marjorie Taylor Greene, took it upon herself to drop articles of impeachment against him. This lady has some gall. Oh my God, she has some gall. Most recently, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, yesterday, drew up impeachment papers on House Speaker Pelosi for treason and gave them to her in this big charade of, a big show. It was really, really unbelievable. It would seem that Representative Greene has very little understanding of the democratic process or of our Constitution for that matter. I'm no expert, but I think the average, 7th grader could probably listen to her. She also did something that was really, really horrific, which I'll get into later. But her information is not based on facts. It's based on lunacy. I'm sorry, I'm just going to keep it real here like I usually try to do. She is a QAnon disciple. And I've put 2 videos up of her to show you what's going on. Does not seem like she's being chastised by her GOP. It does not seem like people are actually saying, "Are you kidding me?" And she's touting the line for Trump. So what she did was something horrific. And you can watch the video. It was one of the kids that was in a mass shooting, David Hogg. She harassed him just weeks after he watched his friends get shot up. She harassed him and kind of like stalked him basically. The poor kid, he's a child. And it was obnoxious and inappropriate and unbelievable gall. That's all I have to say. So I put those up today because, everything's really, really fluid. What's going on here? So the GOP needs to decide what it wants to be when it grows up, because this is just nuts. With these people lying, they're not fibbing. They're not telling little white lies, I guess you could call them, or whatever. They are freaking lying like con men and swindlers, and it is incredibly harmful to our democracy. Like, you need me to tell you that? It is incredibly harmful to our democracy, and I don't even know what to say. I don't know. It's an awful, awful thing. So anyway, I will go on. We also need to clarify 2 kind of, I would call them ludicrous false equivalences that the GOP is making with regards to freedom of speech, and these aren't just the Congress people, these are the actual people, constituents. And the Congress people are just going right along with it. Just yahoo. So we need to clear up some things about freedom of speech. And we also need to clear up some things about comparing Black Lives Matter to a hate group, or it's just, this whole thing's ridiculous. The lies are out of control. So I'm going to turn it over to Don, and I'm going to introduce him, and then I'm going to ask him to explain a little bit about why freedom of speech isn't free and has never been an absolute. First, I'm going to introduce him, and if he wants to talk a little bit about the false equivalence that goes on with that's going on with the GOP and the constituents, and just the lies are, I guess if you keep lying and keep lying, then pretty soon people start believing it. I guess. I don't know. Well, I have my ideas, but anyway, I would like to welcome Don, who is, I wanted to introduce my wonderful guest. This is a special host that I love to have on, named Colonel Crumlin. Can I call you that, or Colonel Crumlin?
That's fine. That works.
Who is a former military commander and currently a certified health and wellness consultant, and he knows a lot of stuff. And Don was also a senior quality advisor to Hewlett Packard, and he's not just an incredibly knowledgeable person, but he is a wonderful friend to me. And Don has a blog and a health and fitness page that, I hope I'm explaining this correctly. I'm sure you can jump in and tell me. And I will be thrilled to put his, contacts up, because I know a lot of people have said they really love hearing Don, and I'm one of them. So welcome. And I'm going to make you jump right in. Aren't I nice? No segues?
That's fine. Glad to be of service. Thanks for having me, Kim. What would you like to start off with?
Well, I wanted you to, and I know most people probably know this, but it's a really good review before we get into a lot of the stuff here today, because there's a lot of stuff. I think people are under the impression, and not our audience, of course, but a lot of people, in general, maybe these 74 million people that are Trump supporters, they have a misunderstanding that freedom of speech is like, woohoo, like a free-for-all. And it's not.
Well,
and
yes.
So I was hoping you could maybe speak to that a little.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. Hate speech has never been authorized, especially when it's connected with inciting violence. So it's the connection. You just like you're not allowed to yell fire in a crowded theater. Hate speech, especially when it's connected with inciting violence, example, an insurrection, is not authorized. The far right has tried to portray the elimination of Trump from social media as an infringement on his free speech rights, because they've gone after the My Pillow guy and him and a few others that have just been, it's false information. And one of the things that the Democrats will probably try to invoke again, that was taken away in the Ronald Reagan administration, was the Fair Information Act. What that means is that if you're going to tout yourself as a news source, as a legitimate news source, you have to tell the truth. And people that are hardcore Fox watchers and conservatives don't realize the fact that Roger Ailes, the originator, innovator, creator of the Fox News source, wrote a book, and in it he revealed his strategy. He was not about actual news. He was all about people being passionate about their opinions. The people on Fox News that present themselves as newscasters are actually pontificating about their hardcore conservative views in the way that they spin the information that's out there, often by omission and sometimes by pure disinformation with regard to how they either interpret or deliberately misinterpret what's actually going on. But people, because they do it in such a passionate way, and people that are of less education, let's put it that way, than some others. For example, most of the people on all of the major networks all have a minimum of college degrees, and many of them, the large majority of them, have graduate degrees. For example, Rachel Maddow has a
PhD
Juris Doctorate.
and yeah,
So yes, and other degrees. So
yes.
she's a qualified attorney as well, but she chooses to do newscasting. Most of the Fox newscasters, commentators, can't really call them newscasters because that's not news, or have either high school diplomas or less in equivalency. So you're hearing these passionate pontificating ideas, concepts, and misinterpretations of what's actually going on from people that are not formally educated to a level that they should be in order to properly deliver a proper assessment and factual interpretation of the news. As an example of that, the UK, New Zealand, and Australia do not allow Fox to broadcast a news program. In Canada, they have to call themselves News and Entertainment, the same way that WWE had to go from World Wrestling Federation to World Wrestling Entertainment in order to not present themselves as something that is based on fact versus fantasy entertainment. And that's what the network that calls themselves Fox News is all about. So in Canada, they have to pay an extra fee and call themselves entertainment, not just news. The USA, because of the dissolution of the Fair Information Act that happened under the Reagan administration, allows them to pontificate just their hardcore right ideas that were expounded by Rush Limbaugh and other conservative radio
Fairness
personalities.
doctrine's gone. So the fairness doctrine's
He eliminated himself from the airwaves in a partial protest to Trump being disavowed from his social media platforms.
Yeah, can I jump in for a second? I don't want to.
Please.
Something that I've noticed that's gone on, over the years is that we used to rely on experts. Like if they were going to sell something, even in a commercial, they'd have a doctor doing it. And I don't know if it's just me, but it's been going downhill for quite some time, where people are under the impression that all opinions are created equal. And I don't mean to be mean, but whether you're an academic or not, do you want to get your advice from someone who's studied this field for decades, or someone who maybe this is the way I put it is pretend you're going to the moon. Okay, I say this all the time because this is the only analogy I can come up. Pretend you're going to the moon. It's your first time. You're really excited. You're not an astronaut. This is like really cool, right? So, are you going to call up? You're nervous, of course. Are you going to call up maybe Caltech or maybe MIT or maybe you're going to call somebody who with a PhD in astrophysics or something like that. You're going to talk to somebody who has had a couple moonwalks, who is an astronaut, who is an astronomer at least, right? Or are you going to talk to your best friend who saw Apollo 13 twice because he really liked it? Okay, I'm sorry. Not all opinions are created equal. And when we allow them to do so, misinformation and I hate to say the word, but fake news comes about. And if we have a constituency that's not educated, that's a very dangerous thing, as we have seen firsthand for we're in the twilight of our democratic republic. We don't have to be, but it's us.
You're absolutely correct. And because they deliver with passion
Right.
and are very vociferous in their delivery, it makes it sound like it's something that's factual. The technique that is used, I forget the generalization of, there is a word that describes the actual technique. Mm-hmm. Rush Limbaugh does it a lot, or used to do it when he was on the air, mm-hmm. a lot in his delivery. You say 2 or 3 things that are absolutely true, mm-hmm. and then you throw in a third thing that is actually your opinion, but because it was preceded by things, okay, the sky is blue, grass is green.
Coupled it with, yeah.
Yes, and then the next thing you say is that the Führer is a great leader. And people fall in line with that because you have basically been marched down a primrose path to keep nodding your head, even though the last point is not salient or correct.
Yeah, and not to belabor, not to go on and on about this because we have a lot to talk about. But another thing that is a really tough thing is that as the world has become more specialized, it's impossible to be a specialist in everything. And I think because of the internet and social media, and we have so much information at our fingertips, for many people, it can be very disconcerting. And I don't know what you think about this, Don, but I've noticed that people tend to want to have order to their lives. And thinking does kind of hurt. Using critical thinking skills is not easy for all of us. Not all of us have a genius IQ, and so we really have to focus. And I think as our lives become so much more complex with so much being thrown at us and so much happening, we yearn for direction where we can just be kind of a zombie and follow. And that's a really dangerous place to be. And I think some of the, what makes Trump and all this and the fake news and the pretend media that, Fox News and whatnot that are just spewing their horrifically cruel opinions is simply people are just overwhelmed. And I'm not making an excuse for them. It's no excuse. It's unconscionable.
No, it's an absolute valid point because just like athletes practice a lot in order to be proficient at what they do, as do musicians, as do anybody in whatever specific profession they're in. The reason that professors get to have the title of professor is that they have exercised their brain to the point wherein they have achieved a certain level of excellence that they have had to prove themselves in front of a panel of their peers in order to show that they have true expertise in the areas that they have.
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw a quote the other day, actually it was way back in approximately the middle of the Trump presidency, where someone said, well, a person's first government job should never be the president. And that's absolutely right, because so many things, political science, a person that needs to know government 101, all of these basic things. There were so many things that when Trump first got in office, he hired all these generals and everything there, that they were so frustrated that he was so ignorant of his knowledge of how government works. And he wanted to do all these things that were flat out illegal, that were not supposed to be done. Well, he went ahead and did them anyway. He found, yes, people, yes, women, yes, men, that would simply fall in line with whatever he wanted to do, whether or not there was a foundation in legality, whether it was the right thing to do from a humanitarian point of view, et cetera. All of these things that he had little knowledge of and didn't care about, he would just steamroll over if it didn't have any value to him.
Right. And that's definitely an excellent point because, on the other, in another sense, you're saying it very nicely. I maybe won't say it quite as nicely. Trump's not educated. I don't think he's ever opened up a book in his life, to be honest. And if I'm going to be completely candid, as a special education teacher who specializes in reading, I think he has reading difficulties. I'm not trying to be mean. I think he has a reading disability.
There are actual YouTube videos that demonstrate that point.
I noticed it immediately.
Yes, he has a very poor vocabulary, very poor and limited thought processes in terms of his intellectual acumen, which is pretty much almost non-existent.
And just to clarify, people with learning disabilities can be brilliant. There's absolutely no correlation between but part of the problem is his ignorance is so, he thought Frederick Douglass was still alive. I mean, he's not a studied man. He's not. No, it's ridiculous. It's embarrassing, and he is not.
Well, and then you have a person like that that's in power that only sees concepts in terms of see, spot, run, and is so braggadocio about how he's the greatest at everything. and clearly he doesn't seem to have a specific special aptitude for anything other than manipulating media and getting people to follow his misdirection,
Lying.
uh,
He's
which
really good at lying, Don. I'm just saying. He's one of the, I've
yeah,
never seen someone lie so easily in my life.
I'm trying to be diplomatic
Oh,
about
I'm
it,
not. This is called real talk for a reason. No,
Okay.
he lies, and you're so sweet and you're very wonderful and professional. But I pride myself in not being so because I like to call it like it is. And the man, I've never seen anyone lie like that. Like
No,
it's
he's truly, it's not anything to brag about or to
no,
be proud of,
no,
but he truly is proficient, let's put it that way,
yeah, yeah,
in a very negative direction.
absolutely. So I don't know if you wanted to speak right now about some of the false equivalences that are going on with,
Sure.
people with Black Lives Matter,
That
which
was,
enrage me, by the way. But
yes. Thank you for reminding me. That was another
sure,
topic that you wanted to talk about.
yeah, just briefly, because
Also, well, we already touched on it a little bit with regard to the free speech thing, and that that the current Trumpism conservatives feel that he is being slighted by being suppressed by the social media that no longer allow him to spread all of this misinformation and flat out lies, as you defined, throughout the network, because people are passionate about it and they hang on every single one of his words as if they are actually true. He has, and by the way, historically, this is what all authoritarian dictators do. It's not just me. I'm not making a false equivalency when I talk about the fact
no,
that
no,
during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and Operation Rocky Freedom, we studied the speech patterns and the speeches of Saddam Hussein and the techniques and the rhythm and the simplicity and the emotional ticks that were in his speeches are precisely imitated in Donald Trump's speeches. And that is typical of people like Mussolini, Stalin, Hitler, all of these authoritarians that have ruled in a very suppressive to anybody but the people that are in his in group. And that
yeah,
means that all minorities, all different ethnicities, all different rainbow people that are of LGBTQ persuasion, all of these people that are outside of what he considers to be his people
hmm,
are ostracized, penalized, mistreated, subjugated, and otherwise abused in any way that he feels he can get away with, and he justifies it. And it's really just a sugar-coated version of what he's saying with the Aryan Nation and the other forms of genocidal racism that
absolutely.
permeates through those types of
Abs-
societies.
yeah. Excellent points. I know I've read, a number of articles, and obviously we've all had, history, basic history in school, about dictators and people who end up taking over and having horrific genocidal regimes and whatnot. And one of the things that I noted from the very beginning is, I follow Robert Reich, who is
Right.
just
Yes.
a really amazing, brilliant man, really just a great heart, a humanist, obviously, at heart, and he worked for a number of the administrations. And he immediately, I mean, it might have been like before he even, started, actually got inaugurated, started matching up these qualities. He matches these qualities that have been studied. This stuff's been studied. The way people, people end up becoming these types of leaders who are cruel dictators, authoritarian, and whatnot. It's not. It's not random, and he
No,
would.
and he follows the playbook exactly.
Thank you. Exactly. And that's why it was all the more upsetting for a lot of us who are like, look, watching him do this. And then we have 74 million people who are like, cool. And it's like, wow. It's almost unbelievable. It really is almost unbelievable. So I just wanted to jump in here. When you have if you want to either call in or just have a question for Don that's on the topic, I just read a couple things real quickly and we can go on to the next. Is that right?
Sure.
Or unless you wanted to say something about Black
No,
Lives
that was a
Matter.
good example of false equivalency. I think if we spend too much time on that, we'll just go down a rabbit hole.
Because the Black Lives Matter stuff, I will go nuts on because
Okay, yes. Well, there's that. The clearly what is so egregiously misunderstood, if you stop and say the words slowly, it totally makes sense. But people are so quick to equivocate it with something that is negative because their leader told them so. And this is totally, they've had people that are anarchists, and what I mean by an anarchist, for those that don't know that word, someone who's just there to stir up trouble. They plant these people in with the peaceful demonstrators, and when they act up and do violent things and get arrested and do all sorts of negative issues, the people that are being told by the evil leaders that this is a bad thing and it's a broad brush that you paint across everybody, obviously that totally distorts and pollutes the entire group.
they're setups. They're basically setups.
They're basically set up. They're being set up for failure. They're being set up for everybody being so. It's the same thing that the Nazis did to the Jews in World War II. And they associated them with being the problem for why they had economic problems, for why they had. How many Trump supporters are on board with saying that minorities are a problem with why they didn't get promoted or they didn't get a certain job and that sort of thing?
We blame things on Black people and brown people and indigenous people, and
you blame Hispanics. His first speech right out of the box was to denigrate Mexicans. This is a horrible thing. And people just kept nodding their heads. It's the same technique that the Rush Limbaugh example that I gave. Sky is blue, grass is green, people of color are bad. That's the primrose path that they are led down that makes it a very horrible thing. One point that I just snapped into my mind that I know that you wanted to talk about a little bit at least was with regard to President Biden, like saying that word, with regard to his executive action for the diversity, equity, and inclusion executive order. And people were frustrated saying that it didn't go far enough. And what I would like to say with regard to that is that how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You have the demographics of voters. You have all the people on the hard left, you have all the people on the hard right, and you have this other huge group that's in the middle that actually does the deciding. And kind of like turning a battleship or the Titanic trying to get around an iceberg, you can't be as nimble as a running back or a motorboat in a vehicle. That the vehicle that we have is this entire country. In order to turn the entire country in a proper way, they've had 4 years of being programmed with this evil, racist, misogynist,
liar. I'll say it. Absolute bold-faced liar.
Person that has no concept of the truth and in alignment with a news-ish organization that falls in line with all of his propaganda. They're basically the vehicle of his propaganda along with his tweets.
Yeah, they're being used. They're being used.
They're being used to help manipulate people on a mass schedule. So in order to turn the middle group, you have to do it incrementally in steps. You just can't go from, well, wait a minute, we've got the House, we've got the Senate, we've got the presidency. Now let's totally throw our agenda on this side. That's not quite how it works. That's not how it's successfully going to work. Rachel Maddow did a wonderful piece just last night talking about how the Republicans seem to be in a full-blown anger management, violent mode and supporting of that, while the Democrats are trying to methodically get the people's business done. And we need to get back to that as a normalcy. And that's a problem. We can't, it's like trying to fight fire with fire. We have to educate people to remember that the principles that this country was founded on are based on diplomacy and not violence. And just as we just celebrated Martin Luther King Day a week or so ago, we have to remember that that is the path to both righteousness and to a maintainable civil society where people treat everyone with honor and respect and understand that everybody's contribution has a value as long as they're doing it with good intentions.
Yeah, and
So,
oh, go ahead. I can definitely speak to some of this, but go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, that's okay. If you want to jump in with
Yeah.
the other point I wanted to make just in part with that is that Susan Rice, who was a prominent cabinet member in the Obama administration, is she has been put in place by President Biden to be in charge of the department that has oversight over the diversity, equity, and inclusion postulate and position that is under his administration. So here he's given her a very senior advisor role, and she obviously, as a person of color, is going to do her best. She's very intelligent, very highly skilled, very competent lady, and she's going to do an excellent job in that role. And President Biden has empowered her with the authority to do whatever it takes to make that happen in a measured format that is going to be just as he has set the tone, that we're going to do everything with honor and respect, etc. If you saw I'm sorry, I'm taking a little longer than I intended.
That's okay.
If you saw his press conference, one of his press conferences earlier today, one of the things that was very markedly different is that even in dealing with a question from a reporter from that other network, he was patient and respectful, did not denigrate, insult, etc. that person, even though they were trying to ask a gotcha type of question. He still handled it with dignity and poise and intelligence, with complete sentences, and with an actual answer that was going to get to the conclusive, real decision that his administration was going to make in response to the question. Go ahead, Kim.
Oh, sure. You're making wonderful points. And I'm not trying to play the devil's advocate, but a lot of the people I speak to are frustrated. Their ancestors have been frustrated. Their grandparents, grandparents. And so a lot of what I think we're seeing, and understandably, is we've been there, done this. We've heard this over and over again. This is not a complex thing. It's a simple thing, really. Treat people like humans, because that's what we all are. And I think the frustration that comes out, first of all, is number one, Biden might not have been everyone's first choice by but obviously there's no equivalent between him and what we had. We were going to lose our democratic republic. We're still not quite out of the woods there, I hate to say, but I guess my point is that whereas when you're being, idealistically, of course you want to let things slowly, but see, a lot of us have been there, done that. And a lot of my friends we've seen this decade after decade. And I understand as much as one could, being me, that it should have been done decades ago. It's 2021, for the love of God, we have people who have 74 million people have voted for a person who is basically, as far as I'm concerned, he's the de facto leader of the world's modern Ku Klux Klan. And I do not say that lightly, and I'm not saying that in hyperbole either, because that is what he has done. You know, the letters of all the people who do the all these shootouts and all this have him right in it. I mean, he's leading. I talk to my friends from other countries, and I do not blame Black, brown, indigenous, of mixed heritage, African American people in this country for being absolutely just beside themselves. Because I know I am. I am thrilled so far of what Biden is doing, but more, more, more. I want more, and I don't want to wait.
Do it in a measured way. Yep.
You know,
I
so
agree. He is doing good things. He has to do it in a measured way.
and I get that, and just because this is not. See, this is to me, and this is my problem, Don. This isn't a controversial issue. Like, for example, I will not debate somebody about Trump. Trump has Trump's values and ideologies, and it's been crystal clear. He does not believe that some groups are as worthy as others. And I do not debate anybody on my fellow humans' civil and human rights. I mean, that's, to me, that is a moot point. It's ridiculous. And so part of it is that this just seems so obvious. I mean, our own Constitution, our own founding fathers, who many of which were slave owners, they might not have been able to walk the walk, but they wrote a Constitution that changes over time. They knew slavery was wrong. They absolutely did. And they knew they were wrong, and they knew it was going away. And they wanted the Constitution to move over time and to include everybody. Eventually, they just couldn't do it themselves, clearly. But it's right there. Liberty and justice for all. It's just so obvious.
Truths to be self-evident
Yes.
that all men are created
Yes.
equal and they are endowed by their creator.
Yeah.
Certain
Inalienable
inalienable
rights, yeah.
rights.
So
There's a life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
that's everybody. And that's everybody. And so this is not like, wow, it's just such a controversial issue. There's no issue. There's people who aren't acting American. And yes, we haven't acted American for a really long time, but we've always, at least in my mind, I've seen hope that we were trying to create a more perfect nation. And with Trump, oh my God. But you want to take some questions? Or comments or?
Well, while you're looking at the comments, let me just further amplify what
Okay.
you just said.
Sure.
One of the things that Biden did, he immediately got rid of that 1776
I
document
was so happy.
that it defines a Black person as only 3/5 of a person.
It was unbelievable.
And we just had exiting former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo say that diversity and multiculturalism is not what this country is supposed to be about, which is absolutely ridiculous. I'll use myself as an example.
That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
My maternal great grandfather was Chinese. My paternal grandmother is Native American, and I have an Irish last name. So I am essentially a salad, which is the more modern and inclusive
Absolutely.
definition
Yep.
than melting
Melting
pot.
pot is considered that to
Melting pot
leave
is
your
is
ethnicity,
it
leave
means that
your
you're basically dilating all of the rest of the cultural contributions,
right.
and you're trying to merge them into whatever the majority
Majority
says.
culture is right. And that's when I was a kid. When I was in school, that's what they talked about.
Yes. Whereas the salad example says that all of the ingredients have their unique and special contributory qualities that are not suppressed by any other one thing, and they all synergize and complement each other.
To be
in order
celebrated. To be
and
celebrated.
celebrate.
Yeah.
That's right. That's another key term you can tell between someone who is actually walking the talk versus just trying to accommodate.
Tolerate. That word, I cannot stand that word.
You
Tolerate.
don't, you don't
Jewish
tolerate
things.
diversity, you celebrate diversity.
Absolutely.
If you really mean it, you celebrate it. You don't tolerate
It's funny because when I think of my family, even oh my gosh, my stepfather was half Chinese. My oh my gosh, my nephews and nieces are half Indian from India. I mean, our entire family is made up of we have someone from Ethiopia in our family. I mean, there's, it's just, that's the way life should be. And I truly believe that is the way of our founding fathers set it up so that we could move towards a more perfect union, which everybody is valued, not just some people. And so,
Very well put, Kim.
thank
Excellent.
you. Thank you so much. Well, I'll take a couple comments and then I want to move on to the next topic. Just again, I want to reiterate the talks that we have here, and on my, and I know, Don, you know, this isn't for you. This is just for, some people who might need to know this. I'm not into debating my fellow humans, civil and human rights. I'm not into it. I know that might sound like a cop out, but I mean, what am I going to say? You're an asshole. I mean, I don't know what am I going to, what am I going to argue? Sorry, Don. How am I going to argue that? It's inhumane. We're all brothers and sisters. And I will not argue that it's okay for some of us to act like we're not. And so part of it is a lot of people some people like to come on here and just try to debate things. And I'll agree to disagree on almost anything, but not my fellow humans, civil rights and human rights. Never, not. It's just not going to happen. So that being said, I'll read a couple of, I'm just not here to debate that, Trump's really cool and that, no, it's not going to happen. And I hate to say it, but that's just speech over. Okay. And I know that sounds sanctimonious, but that's, you know what? I host it. I get to say, at least have some say in it.
There you go.
And that took a lot for me to say that. But now I'm going to go cry in the shower. Let me see here. Mr. F.S. Black. About the media's racial bias. Just look at the recent Chad Wheeler incident. White athlete nearly kills his black girlfriend, but no coverage. Yet Kaepernick's career was ruined just for kneeling. And I wanted to kind of jump on that. I am not overly familiar with that. Obviously, it really didn't publicize it enough, and that happens all the time. But if you'll notice, what happens a lot of times is
the issue was stolen.
Well,
The former president, jumped in and stole the issue with his misinterpretation, and it spread like a disease and became what at least conservative media then propagated throughout the entire country as the incorrect but popular interpretation. The kneeling was to protest social and judicial injustice across racial lines. The police brutality, all of these things that have been going on for way too long, that thankfully President Biden is addressing right now. But Trump turned it into a patriotism issue. Oh, if you're kneel, you're disrespecting the flag. Now, no one said anything when Tim Tebow was kneeling.
When right, of course.
Regarding his issues. Mm-hmm. But as soon as athletes of color started kneeling with regard to social and judicial injustice across his, by the way, a common theme throughout the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's civil rights journey. But their leader stole the issue, totally misconstrued, miscombobulated, and weaponized it against minority athletes.
Yeah, and
he did the same thing with the Black Lives Matter issue. Black Lives Matter was an extension and amplification of emphasizing social injustice in both normal sociology terms, in terms of our socio-political awareness and its repercussions, and what people actually suffer in getting a house loan, a car loan, justice with regard to anything that involved a court system. And totally miscombobulated it, turned it into something that could then be weaponized and used against these people that are just asking for truth, justice, and the American way, equality, balance, equitable, interpretation and application of the law.
A lot of times we've seen over and over again historically that people will take an absolutely more than legit issue. And because racism and white supremacy is such a huge part of this country's culture, they like to turn it around. We're so used to white supremacy. I would like to, and I've read about this a bunch, that when we talk about not being white supremacists, it sounds like we're talking about not being American a lot of times. And I think Trump really, really went to town on that. I know Colin Kaepernick, even, he did not do this on a whim. He spoke to people, many, many military people, about how to go about doing it respectfully. He did
correct.
his homework. And what I wanted to say was, it is so easy for white folks and folks who believe in supremacy to make a huge ordeal about the way in which people protest. But if you'll notice, for Black Americans, they don't want a peaceful protest, but they also don't want a violent protest. So they don't want any protest. That's the problem. Many of the peaceful protests, 93+% of them over the years, as we saw in an article, I can't remember where it was from, but it was a legit source, were absolutely peaceful. And the other percent that weren't, many times was instigated by the police themselves, or, like you say, somebody who's a plant. Some things are a conspiracy. Okay, I'm sorry. But white folks, and I'm not speaking for you, I am speaking for me. White folks in America overall have done every single thing we can to make sure that Black, brown, and indigenous people do not accumulate generational wealth and do not succeed. Yet they succeed anyway. And
I'll give you a perfect example of that. And in fact, a couple. One of the things you touched on earlier in what you just said with regard to people being accepting of racial stereotypes and terminology that is disrespectful and suppressive of minorities is when a certain person, whose name I shall not mention, but everybody knows who said it, on that other news channel told LeBron to shut up and dribble. That is a slave master ideology.
Yep.
Textbook.
I have a video on it. Absolutely.
Oh, I don't want athletes to make any kind of social justice statements. Just do their sport.
You're here to do your job.
And just let them go do their job. Well, they are, just like you have student athletes that in the 70s and 80s did social protests. You have to acknowledge that these people are part of society. They don't just live in a bubble where they just play their sport. Once they take their uniform off and go out in regular society, they are subjected to the same types of potential injustice that other regular people in society are subjected to. And it shouldn't be that way. Everybody should be treated the same, just as you have emphasized that point so many times over and over again, so eloquently and so correctly. It's an absolutely abominable thing that people have to have this extra above and beyond walking the straight and narrow, and still sometimes get treated extremely harshly, extremely prejudicially, in a way that is both brutal and suppressive of who they are as their rights, as we just defined by the preamble of the Constitution: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Everybody, inalienable rights endowed by their creator.
Yep.
These are things that people forget when they get caught up in the fascist propaganda that says that one group is better than another group.
Yeah, it's really almost unbelievable that we are still even talking about this. I'm sorry. It just, I mean, we very much aren't talking about it enough, as far as I'm concerned. But, and that's
Yeah.
one
Why
of the
is
reasons
racism
yeah,
still a debate?
it's ridiculous. It's in my mind, it's like, I don't know what's a word that means more than ridiculous. It's ludicrous. I was just looking once again for my, Lyndon B. Johnson. Not that I think he's, anyone to exactly quote, but I gotta tell you, he absolutely had it right. When I'm sorry, I say this almost every time, but it needs to be said. He he said, it's very antiquated and rude, but it is so true. And white folks fall for it like suckers. Oh, look at your puppy. He said, Lyndon Johnson once said, if you can convince the lowest man that he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him someone to look down upon, and he'll empty his pockets for you. And I truly believe that is absolutely spot on. It's still spot on. Decades and decades. It's like we aren't learning. It's just not to make this all about me, but it's really troubling. It's really troubling. I used to say when Trump was president, all of a week ago, whatever, losing my faith in humanity, one Trump supporter at a time. And you know what? I say that, and I'd be the first person on this planet to educate a Trump supporter, and absolutely do it lovingly and kindly. But I'm appalled.
If they're receptive to facts, yes.
Absolutely. I'm just appalled. And I don't get it.
Let me touch on a couple of headlines that are going through. Trump was more upset that the Capitol mob looked low class than about violent attacks. The Virginia cops who posed for selfies after breaking into the Capitol got fired. And there were I think the final count that I heard was there was something like 120 to 130 either current or former police officers and military personnel that were in that crowd. Another officer responding to Capitol attack is dead by suicide. I suspect that because they knew key inside information and are afraid that to be a whistleblower that sticks a dagger in the behind the scene connections of the GOP to the insurrection and beyond, they just couldn't handle the emotional stress of carrying that weight, went with it. And that's why when things started to close in on them, they felt like they needed to just check out.
Yeah. Well, we're going to learn things
after their ankle monitor placed that person at the Capitol riots. I mean, we're talking stupid on steroids here. A lot of these people.
Yeah.
And in terms of it's also been revealed that the new sign language interpreter for Biden runs a pro-Trump Facebook group. Whoops. Time for her to update her resume in my best
Wow, where did you get that information? That's
fast exit in her future, I see.
That's huge.
Yes, so this is a moving target topology that's all over the place.
Yep.
With regard to so many things that are being revealed. There's a video of the Republican congressperson letting people in the back side door of the Capitol building.
On my YouTube. It's on my YouTube channel.
There are so many things that are wrong. So for them to turn a blind eye in the upcoming Senate trial that is a follow-on to the impeachment. So let's go back and talk about that for just a second, please, if we could. Sure. This is the first president ever to be impeached in their first term, to ever be impeached twice, and that argument with regard to people saying that it's unconstitutional that's not true. It's been done. In 1876, there was another person that was called the Secretary of War, who resigned his position for doing illegal things, still was brought back and tried, impeached and tried in the Congress and the Senate after he had already resigned his position, so was already out of the public process. And the hypocrisy that has been outlined by Mitch McConnell is that he said in the first impeachment, well, you can't try the president because he's the president and he's in office. And then the second time he's saying,
Now
well,
you can't do it because he's out of
he's out of
office. I mean,
office.
that's
So,
just,
well, wait a minute. You can't have it both ways.
yeah, it's ridiculous. And we kind of jumped to the, if you want to jump to the impeachment.
I'm sorry, did I jump the
No,
topics?
that's okay. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. I just wanted to emphasize how incredibly important it is because of everything we've been talking about and the 74 million people who think this man is some sort of god of sorts, or at least believe every word he says, no matter what. He might, yeah. Well, I read an article in Vanity Fair that made me think a little bit more than that, even. But some of the interviews were obviously, chosen people. But I want to emphasize how incredibly important I think it is personally. And this is my opinion, that he be convicted. And I know he won't be convicted because that's, what we do. But
the good news about that is that this time around, they won't totally ignore the evidence. They did not allow any evidence to be presented in the previously Republican-controlled Senate. And this time around on the Democratically controlled Senate, at least all of the evidence will be presented. And by the way, all of the lawyers for the rioters are totally focusing there, and they're really doing a lot of work for the Democratic Senate that are going to be presenting the case against the former president. Because they're totally throwing him under the bus, saying he's instigated, he's the one who extolled them, inspired them, incited them to do what they were doing. They were just following orders. They all expected to be pardoned, on and on and on. These are, who knows, dozens and dozens of attorneys that have presented basically very similar arguments, and the Senate presenting the prosecution side of the case for the people can cherry pick all of those golden nuggets out of those court briefings that are being presented in defense of their clients in order to try and get them allegedly out of this insurrection mess, and say these are the things that his own people are saying against him with regard to his role that he played. So what's going to happen is they're going to go down in history after already raising their hand and swearing to be impartial jurors in this Senate trial, where they have already made their decision. The trial hasn't begun. There hasn't been a single piece of evidence.
They've decided it's not constitutional.
And 45 of them have already said that it's a non-player because we're not going to go there. Well, wait a minute. You just raised your hand. In order to be on the panel that makes the decision, you had to come in with it's just like when you do a screening of the jury pool in a regular jury trial. Are you going to base your decision purely on the evidence that's presented in this courtroom versus anything from any outside influence? And everybody that gets to be on a jury has to accommodate and agree to that format, that distinction, that rule definition. Well, these people have already said that they're breaking the rules before anything even gets started.
Right, they're not following the rules. I had a question for you when you have a second.
Sure. History will be very unkind to them, even though they'll probably get away with this, because all of this evidence, especially the video evidence of him clearly inciting the crowd, the videos of people being coordinated and told where the legislative leadership was hiding in the building as it was happening.
Yeah.
All of that evidence is going to come out. And for these people to automatically say that they've already rendered their acquittal decision before even seeing the evidence, that's just beyond ridiculous. No matter if they get away with it now, the evidence will be presented. The people of the United States will see that evidence, and history will absolutely barbecue these people for being so heavily party before country. Go ahead. I'm done. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's a good speech. The party before country stuff is unconscionable. These people have taken vows to this regard, the Constitution. These people are not unaware that it is the Constitution first. So part of my question is, are these people, I'm sure there's many reasons, but these 45 people who have decided ahead of time that they cannot be impartial jurors. First of all, I don't believe them for 1 second that they think it's unconstitutional. I think they are terrified of Trump still. I think that they are basically, he has something on them all, which he does, and they are acting out of fear. They're being dishonest. And sure, history might judge them harshly, but I think they're going to get away with murder. Literally, figuratively, murder.
Well, I just read the example that shows that there is a historical precedent that it has been done before. So they can't make that argument that it's unconstitutional and that it has never been done before. They can't make that argument. I just read you the evidence that says that it is constitutional and it has been done before.
Yeah, and I mean,
that argument by them does not hold water.
Right. I am just blown away by the, horrific lack of integrity of these people in office. And I don't understand, we're allowing them to do it. And when I say we, I mean the 74 million people who thought that this rampant, like ludicrous lying, and doing all this stuff is okay, and storming the, breaking in and stopping our federal government from functioning. I mean, this thing's huge, and it's been just played down. We have a person who's not the president anymore, who still is going to have power and say over such a large amount of people. I don't think that we're out of the woods, people. I'm glad Biden won, but I don't think that means that we're out of the woods with regards to our democratic republic or oligarchy or whatever you want to call it. I think we're in the twilight of our democracy, and it's going to take a freaking miracle to... We love our racism. We just love it.
I agree. He thrives on chaos. He seems to be the only one that's comfortable with it because it manipulates his agenda to his advantage. The attorney generals of New York, Washington, D.C., Maryland, all of the people, Georgia for interfering with the election down there, all of these attorney generals that have solid evidence of his culpability in the criminal acts that he has created and committed with regard to doing anything by hook or crook to try and salvage his rulership, need to start peppering him with these indictments so that he is busier than he can imagine.
I want them to pounce on him. I want them to pounce.
With regard to responding to these things that are eventually the tax evasion thing is such a flagrant thing. I mean, that's what took down Al Capone. That is going to be a huge thing. The rape incident, he can no longer hide behind the presidency with regard to denying to provide a sample of his DNA in the rape case. And even though the component of that case has with regard to prosecuting him criminally with regard to
statute of limitations is over.
Prison time for rape, he is still liable in civil court to provide his DNA sample, and they will then be able to match that against the DNA sample that the woman who is accusing him of has, and be able to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, not even a reasonable doubt, the DNA will prove. If the DNA proved his innocence, why didn't he provide it way back when?
Of course. Now, are you referring to the 13-year-old way back when, or are you referring to some other case?
This is the lady that he accosted in mid-90s. I think it was in 1996.
Okay. Yeah, because he has actually a number of these things going on, and he's scared away many of the witnesses and whatnot, and cases. I mean, he truly is an example of being able to buy his way out of horrific.
Well, that too, and I think that it should not be understated that his connections to both the Russian mafia and the American mafia are very well documented. And I think people are literally deathly afraid of that, and I would suspect that there have been some subtle um,
Oh,
hints that have been
absolutely.
provided to these
Well,
people
his father was
to
Klan,
make
so I
sure
mean,
that they respond in the way that he wants them to. The Trump Tower was built with cement that it is documented that was coordinated with the mafia controlled labor unions that controlled the great percentage of what was going on. It was because he was so willing to get in bed with these mafia people. How do you go bankrupt with 4 casinos? He was so busy money laundering
hmm hmm
that there wasn't a correct assessment and accountability of the actual cash flow that's going through there. Grocery stores have a 4 to 6% profit margin. Casinos have a 12% profit margin that they are allowed to employ in doing their business. So how the heck do you have 4 casinos and run them all into the ground and go bankrupt? He was so busy wanting to be Don Juan and the Teflon Don and all of these other accolades associated with being a successful mob boss. He couldn't just sit on living off of the development of the interest of the principal that he had from the money that was left to him from his father, part of which he stole from his niece who was
hmm
contesting him in
Right,
court.
right, right, right. Yeah, I
It
get the
gets
feeling,
so
Don.
incredibly complicated, but it's also very simple when you see what his main foundation objective has always been.
I think over
Make a
the
big deal out of
next,
himself and make as much money as possible.
I think over the next year or two or 10 or 20, we are going to find out information that many of us would have probably bet our life on, but information that is absolutely damning, absolutely damning.
Well, he can't hide his taxes anymore.
Yeah.
That's one
And I
thing.
can't wait
They have
because,
full, and he didn't pardon himself.
yeah, right,
So
because he, yeah,
the Justice Department, I mean,
yeah.
they've got to weed out the cancer that has been implanted by him in order to continue to go forward and do good things, as they have to do across all of government. He purposely has uh, implanted Trump loyalist minions in
Absolutely.
so many areas of government. It's like marbling in meat. It's a cancer that has to be weeded out over time. It
hmm
can't be instantly just extricated. We still have horrible
It's like we've
mail
been
service in certain
infiltrated,
areas.
basically.
We sabotage the entire mail service, a
Absolutely.
function that has been operating like a well-oiled machine almost since
hmm
the beginning of the country.
Yep.
He
Yep.
it took him what, a few months
He's a
to totally
saboteur.
sabotage it?
He wanted it. He wants it to be private, and he wants it. And he wants it for himself. And
Well, he wants to privatize it, which is not the way. I mean, privatize it, everything is not the
no.
way to do. You know, businesses come and go. The government is here to stay, is the simplest way to put it.
hmm
And there are some things that have to stay under government control in order to survive
hmm
the ebb and flow of the business world.
Well, capitalism on steroids. It was never meant to be a lifestyle, and as it's been more and more, less and less, I should say, checked. In other words, more and more unchecked. Say it how you want. We're running into just so many problems. I
We
truly
have
believe we're at the
we have
twilight of our democracy.
we have a perfect example right under our noses. There are some businesses that were established for years and years that are gone away or going away permanently because of the pandemic.
hmm Doesn't have to be that way.
They're going to be gone and they're never coming back.
Can I bring up a point that I've been wanting to make for a really long time, and maybe you can help me kind of,
Sure.
you know, work it out. A lot of Americans that I've talked to, and seen and read about are just irate that we're closed. Things, it's just not fair. Our government's making it so we can't earn money. And you know what my response to that is? That's a rhetorical question. My response to that is simply this. We expect clearly so little from our government. We pay taxes. And, you think about a rainy day. Well, you know what? A pandemic It's killed 400,000 people and counting. I don't know what you consider a rainy day, but I consider that a really, really freaking rainy day. And many other countries have taken months and months to subsidize their citizens with their own tax money, that if we had a war, we'd spend it in a heartbeat, and make it so we can keep our businesses, keep our lifestyles, keep our homes, keep our this and that, eat. Okay? And we live in a nation that's so into capitalism on steroids that we have just lost our way. And these people are like, we don't want to work. We want to work. And they're getting mad at people who are shutting down things. They are mad once again at the wrong people.
That's correct.
They're mad at the wrong people. Just like they blame black people for everything. It's the wealthiest elite. And just like they blame, oh my gosh, you bad, governors and this and that, closing us down. Are you kidding me? Our federal government's failed us. I can't think of a worse catastrophe I've ever lived through. Why wouldn't they?
Well, it's hard to just blame our government when it's actually poor leadership in government under certain administrations.
But we don't
have to be specific about this because we can't paint them all with a broad brush. When you have a leader that is so incredibly ignorant that he is shutting down the Affordable Care Act in the middle of a pandemic.
Well, I'm not painting them all. I'm painting him because he was the president during the pandemic.
You said the government, and some people just say it generically.
No, I mean the government that was during the pandemic.
I'm trying to make the specific differentiation.
Absolutely, and I thank you for clarifying that, because I absolutely meant him.
I want to make it clear that we're targeting who really needs to be targeted.
Absolutely, yeah.
When you have a administration that calls themselves creating a tax cut that only benefits the top 1%, and they're making off with Troy. We have this administration created a $7.8 trillion deficit. That is 4 times the last largest one, which was done by the first President Bush. Each Democratic president has reduced the deficit down to reasonable numbers. Clinton had it down to billions. Obama brought it, after it got skyrocketed again by the second Bush, Obama brought it down to 1 trillion. It was getting just under 1 trillion. Trump has amped it up to 7.8 trillion. A huge part of that was from the tax cuts that he gave to the super rich. It has been estimated that we can recapture over from 8 to 15 trillion by expanding the economy with inclusion of all of our diverse multicultural talent. But that's not the way of the white supremacists.
And it's also not the way of the white supremacists to actually get companies to leave their corporate welfare and start paying a fair share of their taxes.
That is correct.
I mean, this nation's going down, and I see why. Sorry to say, I'm just saying.
The super wealthy, for whatever reason, don't care. They can't see the forest for the trees, that if the masses drown, they will eventually drown also. Mm-hmm. The stock market is artificially amplified into a healthy looking thing, but it's a window dressing thing because it's amplified by the super rich.
Yep.
It is not a product of, that's another thing that the former administration brought back is shark-like, aggressive, no controls at all, adversarial and avaricious stock traders and lenders and other people in the financial industry have been allowed to just pretty much run amok. All of the restrictions that were meant to make it a fair playing field for everybody that got involved in stocks, trades, all of these different things. The cryptocurrency world is going into places where it hasn't been before, but a lot of that is based on greed.
I think Trump's done so much damage that we've yet to even see. It's unbelievable.
And it's not that I'm criticizing the cryptocurrency world, it's just that it needs to be operated under a format and foundation that makes it a fair deal for everybody that chooses to get involved, not just the super rich.
And my friend Ronald says, please don't forget that the huge tax break that Trump gave the wealthy also included Trump. And if you look back, it is excellent point. It's very, very easy to see that almost everything Trump does for the super rich is really meant to include him. And he really set himself up with all these, by ending with all these executive orders that harmed our environment. Because that's what he's really, this was his presidency. This was for him. And I think he really proved that.
And his packed selected Supreme Court just exonerated him of his emoluments clause.
Yes, Anastasia just brought that up. I don't know if you can see the I don't know if you...
No, I didn't look at...
Anastasia said the Supreme Court threw out his charges that he violated the emoluments clause because he's not president anymore. And he made money. He made so much money off of the presidency.
Well, they applied a hypocritical catch-22. Oh, you can't do that to him while he's a president, and then...
And you can't do it when he's not.
When he's not. He's now out of the office, so you can't prosecute him for that. So once again, they took advantage of a hypocritical catch-22 that let him off the hook. So
the one thing that I think he's done, and it's a sick thing, is he has shown us all the different ways to circumvent the spirit of our Constitution. And these are loopholes that need to be filled. Many of these things we thought were laws, or at least enforceable things, were traditions. I mean, it's like hiring a guy who, can break into your home to show you how your home will be broken into. And now you know what to, work on to make sure your home's not broken into. Well, we elected a man who basically is the king of, sleazeball, basically he's a mobster. And
it's even worse. He gave an open door policy to our lifelong adversarial enemy in the former Soviet Union, run by Vladimir Putin, who was a leader in the KGB and is running his country as an authority, even though his title is allegedly president. It's president in perpetuity,
right?
And that there's never another election,
you might die if you don't vote for him. Let's put it that way.
It is when he comes up against someone that opposes his political authority, he throws them in jail, poisons them, etc. It's pretty barbaric, but that is what we were headed for with the second term of this person that idolizes, admires, and was totally, for lack of a better term, in bed with.
Kiss his ass, too.
A lifelong adversarial opponent. And for him to have confiscated the notes of the interpreter, not allowed anybody into his private meetings, totally against State Department protocol that had been in place for zillions of years, there clearly was some underhanded and not just enemy of the state, but clearly totally international law violations that had to have been going on. Otherwise, why all the secrecy? Why did you take away all of the in-place protocols, the dissolution of the Iranian deal? Iran has asked for Biden to reinstate that deal. That's how bad a decision it was. And all of the other European Union countries had bought on, and he unilaterally got us out of that just because Obama had negotiated the deal and he didn't like it. And yet he was totally unable to negotiate a new deal. When Iran started doing something irregular, what did he do? He sent in an assassination squad to assassinate one of the top generals. He basically did everything he could to practically start another nuclear war. And he, barren and bereft of any diplomatic skills, despite having allegedly convinced this totally gullible and manipulative crowd that follows him into thinking that he was this wonderful deal maker and incredible.
He's a horrible con man, is what he is. And Carrie Beck has a question. We had a question, right? He's the opposite of ever. In fact, most things that he says, he's actually projecting. He's the opposite of. Carrie Beck says, Don, will we ever really? And I know you don't obviously for sure know this, but it's a great question. Will we ever really know what really is going on between Trump and Russia? And if so, what do you think it might reveal, in your opinion?
Unfortunately, I do have a fair guesstimation of what was going on in that. Let me answer that in a way that doesn't get me in trouble, because I'll put it to you this way. I had a top secret clearance for my entire military career. I never went to a top secret briefing that I didn't come out of scared to death. I saw a lot of things that you would probably consider to be Star Trek-ish or Transformers sci-fi level. I won't tell you which components, but some of those things, at least in a semi-rudimentary level, actually do exist. So for me to see someone who is barren and bereft of intellectual acumen have access to and control of these extremely viable weapons, systems, and technology, and to be in such a subservient role to our key adversarial opponent in such a way as to be openly telling our
secrets and whatnot,
our CIA and FBI to share this. And, luckily Cooler Heads said, no, we're not going to do that. But he openly has something. I believe that, for example, if not the PP tapes, something equivalent to that in level of extortion.
They're holding something over his head.
That Putin has over his head. There's no doubt in my mind that he has something along those lines of that level. He's been grooming this relationship with Trump for 40 years.
Yeah.
When Trump has been trying to get a Trump Tower type of hotel in Russia since the beginning of time, since the beginning of his time as a real estate mogul.
I hope it all unfolds. I hope it all unfolds.
So many wink, wink, shake, shake deals went on when he had the beauty pageant there.
Oh, God. Yep.
That and here's another thing that is extremely troubling. Tiffany Trump takes exotic vacations with Vladimir Putin's girlfriend.
Yep.
Exotic locations, and they chummy and buddy up all
That's
over
very
the
disturbing, among other things, very disturbing.
You can't tell me that there aren't certain components of information or at least influence that's going on in those cozy.
Well, Trump's a mobster and a con man.
That are going on in that communication. So I apologize for not answering your question directly, but if you read between the lines, I think you've got a pretty good idea of my response with regard to your question.
Yeah, I think Trump's definitely going to and still will be getting away with absolutely everything.
As a cleaned up version of how we would describe it in the military, I believe very firmly that Putin has him by the short hairs.
No, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And
just a cleaned up version of what you can
imagine. I think we read you loud and clear. It's I did have one question for you, Don, and I'm going to try
Yes,
to
ma'am.
grab a couple other questions. I know I'm kind of skipping over people don't mean to, but I want to know, do you think that eventually things are going to unfold to the point where we know who, I mean, they made it pretty obvious, but we actually get the actual dirt or information on who has been on the inside, who knew about this the terrorism with the people trying to murder some of the Congress people on January 6th. Do you think we're going to find out who had connections and scoop and whatnot, or is this all going to be just pushed under the rug?
I would think that there's a strong possibility, not necessarily a probability, but I think there's a strong possibility that a lot more information is going to come to light. And I'll say that because of the information that I just shared with you, that you didn't realize that a second policeman committed suicide over this. And it's my contention, and this is just my personal humble opinion,
Absolutely.
is that these people are committing suicide because they know too much. They know the behind the scenes actual dirt and connections that's going on between the GOP, Trump, and whoever else are their nefarious partners that have coordinated all of these different things, and the information sharing that's going on behind the scenes is probably highly illegal. And I
Suicide?
think that
You mean
the guilt
suicide or suicide?
yeah, there have been at least two senior ranking police officers that have committed suicide.
Right.
And,
Not that they've been taken
and
out, right?
I think the guilt has weighed so heavily on their conscience that they felt that this was their best exit. At some point in time, somebody is going to be put in a position wherein they are so frightened by the potential prison sentence or worse. Don't forget, the execution process that got accelerated in the last months of the Trump administration. I mean, it's even though it's an important thing on Biden's radar, he's got so many other things to try and clean up from the previous administration that who knows what will happen before he gets around to addressing that issue. And be careful what you wish for. Some of these people that ask for all of this heavy duty capital punishment with regard to their alliance with the Fuhrer
setting
are going
themselves
to
up.
find themselves potentially on the receiving end. And who knows what kind of a symphony they might want to sing once they find themselves on death row.
Well, that's what I'm hoping, is that I'm really hoping in my mind that, not the death row thing, because I'm adamantly and absolutely 100% against that type of thing. I don't care what you did, and that's another story.
I don't agree with you either.
But-
I'm just saying
Right.
that.
But that being said, I have to say, I think people get a little loose with their mouth when all of a sudden they're thrown under the bus, there's nothing for them, and they're not being protected. And I would love, personally, to see that. And I can't wait, because there's got to be somebody, whether it's a conscience, what they have to do, there's got to be somebody who's, I know they're all afraid of him and he has these things over them, and I get it as much as I could get it. But he's no genius, I'll tell you that much right now, and something's got to give. He's a very, very bad man. And
the one thing he's emphasized throughout his entire career is loyalty at all costs. And with his personal service agreements and et cetera, he doesn't reciprocate that loyalty.
No, absolutely not.
But he
Right.
expects it 110% with regard to him.
Right, he's
I suspect that at some point in time, somebody is going to smarten up before they reach the end of the line and are going to, sorry, it's my phone. And
well, his ex-attorney,
and they,
absolutely.
yes, like Michael Cohen
Michael Cohen's, he's a changed
has-
man. He's seen the light.
he's been the chief canary in the orchestra.
And you know what, Don? I believe every freaking word he says.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Absolutely.
he has seen the light, a large part because of the devastation that has occurred to his family.
His family and life, yeah.
and as well as the things that have been ripped out from him during his life. So he's writing these books, he's doing these appearances, he's cooperating fully. He wants to reestablish a foundation of credibility, so that, let me turn that down. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. And I've carried back his two comments for you after.
He wants to reestablish a foundation of credibility so that he can move on and reclaim some of the earnability to reposition himself in a way that he can provide for his family.
Right. Absolutely.
In some fashion.
I actually feel sorry for him because I truly believe that, and I feel sorry for a lot of people. Don't take me the wrong way. I think he did horrible things and was, but for some reason, I believe he is really sorry for what he did. Like, I'm not like that much of a sucker, but there's something about it. I think anyway, let me give you some comments. Is that okay, really fast? Because Carried Back has 2 and Ronald has 1. Ronald, this is a comment from Ron. He says, I personally want to see the FBI and the prosecutors add terrorism enhancements to the charges they're leveling against the rioters. And they totally have that option. I think they should, I don't know if you want to speak to that. And I'll read Carrie's.
I think they do. I think it's a very unfortunate latent sluggishness because of the cancer that has been inserted into the Justice Department by the previous administration, that they are now having internal arguments as to whether or not they should go ahead and prosecute everyone that they have identified that was a participant. Well, the natural answer is yes, of course they should. That's what the definition of the Justice Department is all about, to mete out justice. This was clearly an egregious attack against our nation's capital. It doesn't get any worse than being involved in a conspiracy.
Premeditated as well.
Invade, attack, kidnap, torture, and execute the line of succession in our democracy.
I don't know how much worse it gets than that, really. I mean, because they didn't like the results of the fair election.
Exactly.
I don't know how much worse it could get, obviously.
How would they vote if it had been a Democratic president that had tried to pull this off? How would they vote? We all know the answer to this one.
Absolutely.
How would they vote if it was a minority president on the other side of the aisle?
Hey, you know what? Obama wore a tan suit once. Do you remember that?
We don't even need to respond because we know the answer to that question.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
So for them to then say that here's something that keeps popping in the back of my head. How are any of our former allies or the other international leaders in the world community ever supposed to trust a Republican president ever again? Because these people have not shown up with having integrity, a moral compass.
And Don, they have no remorse. Even now, they're not taking a stand and saying, we are done with this hate. They're allowing this woman, this Marjorie newcomer, to basically make them fools. They're allowing 45 people who are Congress people to pretend they think it's, I mean, this is, I'll say it again. I don't think we're exactly out of the woods for losing our Democratic Republic. I mean, they're choosing making some really bad.
Well, they're choosing to impede rather than cooperate in what is potentially a new beginning to move forward.
I thought it would be exactly
that works, that does good things for the people and the nation as a whole.
I thought it would be a new beginning, a chance, like to and come clean and say, oh my God, nope. They're doubling down. So I don't know. So my question to you earlier was, do you think we're going to find some people that are in our Congress and House and obviously we know which ones talking about, that are absolutely involved in this. Because I read an article that said that a lot of the Trump money actually funded a lot of these people. The dark money funded these people to come in through the Trump campaign. So, I mean, and that just went nowhere.
Yes, there's a huge amount of that, and they need to shut down that pathway.
Because why dark money? We don't know about it. I bet Trump funded it.
I don't know if the political might will be able to close that loophole, but it clearly needs to be closed. Now, Trump did a huge amount of sabotage, as usual, in order to keep that open, because he, on his way out, made it legal for everybody in his administration to immediately pivot to being a lobbyist, if that is a pathway that they chose to pursue.
Yeah, he's
versus the previous laws had said that
you have to
there
wait a
has to be a certain cooling off period of 2 to 3
Absolutely.
years or something like that before they can get involved in any kind of lobbyist activities.
He's
Well,
kissing ass and paying
Yeah.
off his people and paying himself, and the money alone he made from the presidency is completely criminal. So like I said, he's opened up. I hope to hell these are closed. It might be, he's shown us what needs to be closed. Let me read you Carried Back. She has 2 comments. I agree that there's something big hanging over his head. There's no way he would behave the way he did unless he had great fear of something, or a voracious hunger for something Putin can give. Okay, or something Putin can give him. Her next comment, for something so hugely bad to happen and so little information to come forward about the investigation, I'm guessing the authorities are keeping much close to their vest until they can unspool it all at once. I hope so. I hope that this isn't all being, I want to know personally who gave those tours and why they gave them and how they were allowed to give them. I want to know how
they
all
were
these
supposed
things.
to be illegal, especially during a pandemic. And
Right, a pandemic. I mean, yeah.
what's his name? What's her name? One of the key Looney Tune QAnon supporters from Colorado.
The Colorado woman, yes.
Yeah, she was in on that tour.
Yes, she was.
And she was live texting to the invaders locations of where the legislators were hiding.
I want to know why she isn't being sanctioned, why she isn't being pushed out. Why? We all know she did it.
Needs to be in handcuffs.
How are these people getting away with? She was trying to get her coworker, her fellow congressperson, murdered. She was aiding and abetting the murderers to be. What? How is this legal?
I don't. It's not. I think
in real life it wouldn't be legal. If you aided and abetted somebody for murder, you would be in trouble, Don.
I think people that are that bionically stupid and ignorant of the governmental process should immediately be disqualified from having the legitimacy of holding office. There should be some way that, for example, the speaker or a council in conjunction with the speaker can totally disqualify and eliminate someone that clearly is that out in the weeds and in left field. It doesn't make sense for them to not have a vehicle to be able to do that. And next question. I see you're reading some good questions. What's the next question?
Yes, they are in there now and were there even before Green and Boebert were elected. Interesting. I want to know. I have this thing with justice, and I truly believe the whole thing with great power comes even greater responsibility. And that's how I've lived my life. And this is personal to me. Because
that's a foundation in every religion on the planet.
Absolutely. And these people, not only are they elected, but they have made an oath to our Constitution. I mean, these people aren't just your average person with lack of personal integrity. I'm sorry. I expect the person who is in charge of representing me to be kind of like one of the best. And this is really the corruption. That's why I had add corruption. The shows and the videos I do were originally anti-racism, anti-bigotry, and inequality. And I said, and you know what? The last 4 years, I had to add corruption because it's just a whole nother category that keeps popping its head up. And it's kind of crazy stuff. But anyway, I really, really, I want justice, not revenge. Justice.
Right.
It's not fair. These people have traumatized. They are supposed to be, I mean, I just see our nation, our democratic republic, oligarchy, whatever you want to call it, going down and fast. And I don't know, maybe in 4 years I'll think differently, but at this point, it's not looking so great, you know? I don't know. I hope to hell I'm wrong. I don't want to be right. But, so I'm trying to see if there's, I know I skipped so many people, but you just, do you have any other things you wanted to jump in and say, Don?
Let's see. Let me look at my notes here.
Yeah, check out your notes. We got, can I just, a blanket statement? We got
Sure.
some serious issues in this country. That's statement of the understatement of the century. I do not even know what else. Oh, we got Michael Williams. I'm loving this show 1000%. Makes me very, very happy. I'm going to jump in while I have a second. Doing this live show is meant the world to me. If I get 5 people, I'm thrilled. If I get 200, I'm equally as thrilled. I just want to thank everybody for being here and for caring and for joining in the discussion. Carrie back. My only hope for Trump's future is that the local authorities with New York, Georgia, and DC, etc., will take him down with 1,000 cuts. Congress isn't going to take care of it with the big bang. Yeah, great point. Great point. I hope.
Well, let's look at that for just a moment.
He gets his. You got him on a roll.
All the major, yeah, you got me on another tangent here.
That's okay.
Not exactly a tangent, but another
No,
topic.
it's right on topic.
All of the major banks have refused to do business with him. All of the major corporations have cut off ties with him, including 20 of the 30 top major corporate companies have also refused to do any sponsorship or business with all of the Congress and Senate that are disavowing the results of the election.
I love that.
So hit them where it means the most to them is their pocketbooks.
Their money. We got to put our ideologies.
The PGA has kicked Trump out permanently. They were interviewing. I saw an interview. I didn't realize he had not just one, but he's got like 6 golf courses in Scotland and throughout the UK. I mean, ridiculous. And some of them are extremely opulent in their size and beauty, etc. And people are boycotting them. They're not making money. They're operating in deficit, and they will be taken over. They will be, what's the other word I'm looking for while I'm telling the rest of the story. Try and give me that.
It's gonna go bankrupt with them. They'll be.
Yeah, they will be
taken over by the banks or whatever.
Taken over by the UK and the Scottish government.
Yeah.
For non-payment of the fees and taxes, etc., that are associated with running such a large. Part of the problem with having huge assets like that is that they require huge maintenance fees in order to keep them going, in order to keep them viable. And you have to have a 70% occupancy or operational fluency in order for them to stay viable and generate a profit. And with his name going down the sewer, his sources of income. Now, here's what's going to happen is that because of Deutsche Bank has totally divorced himself, there's no American bank that will touch him. The corporate world is distancing themselves from him. The only people that will possibly, and I doubt that the Saudis, the Kuwaitis, or the Qatar governments will have anything to do with him now that he's out of power, because he can't do anything for them.
Right,
There's
right.
no quid pro quo that can go on.
Yeah,
So he
there's
doesn't
no
have
quid pro quo,
anywhere
absolutely.
near the punch, the authority, the deal-making ability that he thrives on and cherishes so much now that he's out. He has stolen a lot of money, from the term is fleecing the flock, from his constituency. But as he
Absolutely.
just complained about how they look, these are not people that have a lot of money.
No.
There's just a lot of them that have been fooled and have been paying a lot of money into
his the deal where he
supporting
gets
that money.
the money doesn't go to anything other than his pockets.
Exactly.
You don't read the
Instead
fine
of going
print.
to a campaign, a stop the steal resurgence, there are still QAnon people that think he will once again be president again on March 4th, I believe, is the date that they claim.
Is it some sort of
that he will
conspiracy
rise.
thing going on with?
Yeah, he will rise like a phoenix and somehow be reborn into the
Yeah.
presidency. And he has them so bamboozled that they are paying him money to support that cause. It's crazy.
I never knew there were that many crazy people in this country. I really didn't know there were that many.
Nobody knew it was that bad, but they believed him 110%.
And the more he lies and is outlandish, they just.
So he has
I don't get it.
what some economists have guessed to be approximately $1 billion in outstanding debt,
Right, which is due, by the way, right? I mean,
which is due
Yeah.
very, 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 very soon. In fact, Deutsche Bank said they're going to start seizing his assets. They're going to start seizing assets in order to pay for that. So there's only two ways out of this. He's going to have to jump on one of his planes and get out of the country to a place that doesn't have
extradition.
extradition treaty,
Yeah.
or he's going to flagrantly accept some Russian money. But who knows if Putin is going to bankroll him, because he bleeds money like a sieve, and he no longer has anything that he can do for Putin. And Putin, just like him, just like all the other oligarchs, doesn't have a lot of patience for people that aren't useful to them anymore. He was a useful idiot when he had power as the POTUS, and now that he has no power as the POTUS and all he can do is do these insurgency things, the only use that Putin has for him now is for him to be the insurgent, fly in the ointment, hemorrhoid in the sewer, to be as polite about it as I can, but everybody knows what that means. Person that is still stirring up and causing hate and discontent to make this government in this country as dysfunctional as possible. When we talk about unity needs to be obtained in the correct way, so that we're all rowing the boat in the same direction.
Right. Unity by meeting each other halfway is and that's what scares me, is that, well, the people who are absolutely completely off the freaking rocker and saying, well, we want to meet them halfway, that's not unity. That's acquiescing to insanity. And that's my problem.
That's exactly. And these nut buckets that run it, pardon my.
That's okay. Real talk with Angry Soccer Mom. That's what we do. We keep it real.
Pardon my disrespectful word. Because everybody has already figured out by now that I never curse.
Yes, but I do. Sorry.
But you do. That's my cursing she's doing for me.
I make up for you.
Are basically cannonballs rolling around the deck is the military term for folks that are, loose cannon type of personalities that are causing disruption, hate, discontent, etc. everywhere they go. They're a cancer. They're a pollution. They're the embodiment of a social, political pandemic of sorts in government, in interference with smooth government operations.
The only thing, it's funny, the only thing I can say is the cognitive dissonance of our collective has really just diminished. That mirror, we're looking right into it. I mean, I'm sorry to say, and I love our country as much or probably more than the next person. But we have come
The other
full
promising
circle
thing
here.
is that Schumer and some of the other Democratic leaders think they have figured out a way to continue to move legislation forward, even with just the 50% leadership, because there's going to be some disruption and dysfunction in the Republican Party. Trump
Absolutely.
wants to create his own party because he wants to have the handlebars on everything.
Right? He's going to
So
have a grip, and that's really scary.
what is the other super conservative Newsmax?
Oh, that's right.
That's
Yeah,
even worse
taking over the Fox.
that's even worse than
It's going to be out.
FAUX News.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he wants to create another political party, which some people are up in arms about, but I think it's a wonderful thing, because what it'll do is it'll split the red vote, and then they'll never win another election, because the blue will vote blue, the reds will be split, and
Yep. I would
there
love
we
it if they do. And you know what? They
now,
really should stay
because
true
of
to
all the
themselves.
gerrymandering, there'll still be
They'll still-
some knuckleheads that sneak through, and that's another thing. So the Fairness in Information Act, and we must wipe out gerrymandering everywhere.
Gerrymandering must be, and the Voting Rights Act, we better be getting it back, because I'd say we need it more than ever. The way they just dug
Every
that thing out and took all the
village
power away.
and every hamlet, from sea to shining sea to every amber wave of grain, all of that.
We have to keep the pressure on
Must
Biden and his team.
rid of
And I know it's hard, but
of the gerrymandering in every corner of the American countryside.
I want this nation to make being, they say make America great again, make being racist the worst, make it be the worst possible thing you could possibly be. And I think that's going to come from the bottom up. And I know a lot of people don't agree with me, but I've talked to them personally. But grassroots, your money talks. If there's a place, a business, or if there's one that's not, that, I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't randomly spend your money. And I know it's hard right now. Everybody is struggling so terribly in the middle class, and I get this. And I'm not trying to be like, it obviously is a bit of privilege that if you're starving, basically, which many people are, you just want your freaking food. You're going to get it where you can get it. But if you can, people who are kind of doing okay, hanging in there, put your money where your ideologies are, and make sure your money goes to people who believe in what you believe in. And I really mean that. And that speaks volumes for bottom up grassroots. It's something everybody can do if they're at a certain level. I get, if you're impoverished, do what you got to do. I get that. But if you're at a certain level, you're still kind of in the middle class. If you put your money into places that uphold humanistic values, that really does go a long ways. And it takes some research, but I'm hoping to, that'll get to be more and more of a thing, because right now I think people feel very, very helpless with the pandemic. And got another one for you. Is that okay?
Yes.
Carried back's hilarious.
I was going to put in a shameless plug for my business at the end of that.
Yes.
What you just said, but that's okay.
Maybe he'll come back February 2nd. It's Groundhog's Day after all. Ha ha ha. When we were talking about this fantasy of him coming. I mean, yeah. Very good. I thought that was really funny.
I would have thought they'd have chosen April 1st instead of March 4th.
Very good. Okay, you too. And you got a serious fan. Carried back says, I love this guy. Carried back. By the way, everything is on a razor's edge. Scariest moment of the week for me thus far, when I learned octogenarian Senator Lee. He went to the hospital yesterday. He's from Vermont, and Vermont's governor is GOP.
Oh, wow. So the Democrat might be replaced with a Republican, and
Yeah,
that could change the balance. We've been so unlucky with things like that
I just read today something that
with
the
RBG
opposite.
expiring before the end of Trump's term, et cetera. We've been very unfortunate with regard to stuff like that.
Harper said, yeah. I just read today, I can't remember what it was, about how some of
Well, hopefully that person will make it.
GOPs are ready to be done.
Oh yeah, they're ready to pounce, but
Yeah, so
we'll still have the House and the White House. So
yeah, I just hope we
it'll
can.
be tougher, but
I never thought it was going to come to a time for us in America in my lifetime where we saw people so blatantly going against our Constitution first and choosing party over Constitution and people over our nation and our Constitution. You know, certain individuals. Trump. Okay, you know what I mean? And like, I never thought that was going to be the problem. I've always figured something else,
have
but
you
not
explained
that.
the America First thing?
What's that?
Have you explained to your audience the America First thing? What it really
I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Say it again.
America First. Have you explained that to your audience? What it really means?
Well, we've discussed things like that. Yes, I'd love you to
Okay.
shut. I'm not sure what you want to say, but go ahead because that's fine. We understand.
It's a Ku Klux Klan slogan.
Right. Absolutely. We've talked a lot in depth in our shows about, how words are morphing and changing and everything's in, code, and it's crazy. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they had coins minted with that slogan on it back in Trump's grandfather's day.
Well, Trump's father was
Trump's
vice
Father's
he was
Day, excuse me,
Klan.
yeah.
Trump's father was caught in full garb at a Klan rally, and that's printed newspaper. You can look it right up online. And
Yes.
they put microfiche and booped it right on there. But I think what we're seeing is really
He
just
didn't know anything about the Klan and didn't know what they were all about.
he was raised by Klan. I mean, like he was raised by Klan's people.
Yes.
So like what he really meant is like he knows so much about the Klan he doesn't even consider it. He just considers it normal. But I really do fear that the Civil War really never ended. For us, it just morphed and changed. And when we pulled out the compromise of 1877 was the beginning of the end. It's honestly when we pulled our troops from the South and allowed them to go back to their black codes and their Jim Crow and their this and that. And I think that's the beginning of the end because you cannot change a person's heart with laws. And that's why I do what I do, because I know it's going to have to be from grassroots for people who say, I'm not going to sit and do nothing just because the problem is so big.
George Corley Wallace rose again with the who was my goodness, Ron Barr was in there so long. Who was Jeff Sessions? Yeah.
Oh, God.
Jefferson Beauregard Sessions was named after a Confederate general. How obvious does that get?
Oh, he's truly evil. He's. I mean, I have no words. I have so words. JC, you're funny. My kids don't play soccer. Neither do I. Anyway, carried back. Oh, we got some more. And Harper, I'm skipping people. Oh, Harper wanted to say Trump pardoned Jared's father's net worth is $1.8 billion. Ivanka's net worth is $400 million. Jared's is $800 million. The three of them will bail him out. Yeah. And then we have carried back. Sorry, this has been.
Wait. The problem is that
I hope he doesn't
For
have bail.
example, under the New York Attorney General, they are owners,
Right.
co-operators,
Hmm.
operational liable people with regard to all of the tax fraud and stuff that's being uncovered
They're in trouble too,
by
right?
the New York Attorney General by being officers of the Trump organization.
Hmm.
So it's not like they're going to be free and clear and don't
Yeah.
worry, Dad, we'll bail you out.
I don't think Dad's going to have
They,
bail where he's going. I hope. But
they're going to be, well, bail will
I'm
be
teasing.
denied because
Yeah,
the resources are so extensive that
absolutely. He can
they're an extreme,
leave. He'll leave.
they're an extreme flight risk. They have international
Yeah.
businesses and they have their own jets.
Yeah. Gee, you think they're a risk? Yeah, I get, and it's wishful thinking that, and I don't want revenge. I'm not the revenge type. I want justice.
Yeah,
Barbara
now
says
they
Jared's
won't go to
father isn't.
prison, but
Right.
they'll go to Martha Stewart
Prison.
pamper prison, but it'll still be prison.
But still, you know what?
It'll still be you're not going to get to have to fly around with your
Yeah, there's a special place in hell for people who have the means, the power, and the ability to do incredibly great things, yet choose to do horrific, unconscionable things to large numbers of people.
I agree.
And that is what kills me about Donald Trump and family. That man could have helped make our nation incredible, helped us to meet the goals of making a more perfect nation for everybody. But instead, he took the dark, evil road. I mean, and that makes me sick because if I could ever accumulate that much wealth, it would be like a dream come true to try to do amazing things. And he had it, and he chose purposefully to be evil. And that to me is like, there's no worse thing. I can't think, he had the chance to help millions of people.
Another
And he
appearance.
chose.
I'm a director of security.
There's the pup. So
He's in charge around here, so she's checking on me.
Carried Back says, sorry, this has been awesome, and I could listen and participate for hours more, but I have to go. Something at 8 o'clock in the morning. Thank you. Carried Back, you are awesome. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to make my plug, and then we'll do your plug too, because Don's amazing. I definitely need to have Don back. I know this was kind of turned out to be a tough night for you, but you did great. If you are like me and you truly believe that it's important for white folks and everybody, but white folks, because we kind of created most of this mess, like all of it. Okay, sorry. We invented this. It's just a fact. I'm not blaming. I'm just saying. If you feel like I do, that it is way past time, don't even make me say it, for white America to start taking racial responsibility and stepping up to the plate and educating ourselves in our real racial history and our economic history and how the wealthiest elites are fooling all the masses of white people to blaming black, brown, and indigenous people for all our problems when it couldn't be further from the truth. The worst thing that we could ever do is unite and realize who is making us miserable and unable to attain what we want. And that would be the wealthiest elites. As a long spiel. If you believe like I do that, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and watching my videos. And if you know white folks who could really benefit from this, I have a 101 series. Very nice, sweet, darling. I'm not mean. I also have a lot of videos where I'm very, very blunt and angry and ranting because I love doing rants. So please consider subscribing. And Ronald says, thank you so much for Don and your knowledge. And hello, Hosea. Yay, I'm happy you're here. And Don has an awesome business that I am very, very interested in and have been horrific not getting into it. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do? Okay.
Sure. I'm in the health and wellness industry, and My business is actually not just surviving, but thriving during a pandemic. It's all about health and wellness. Uh, it is sponsored by our lead spokesperson is Deshaun Watson, the all-star quarterback for the Houston Texans. At least he is now. It looks like he might be on the move to go to another team, but he markets himself as a professional NFL quarterback generically, and he takes the products. All of the sports teams in at least a half dozen cities throughout the U.S. Swear by these products. They're all natural, gluten-free, vegan, and kosher, uh, rated as a food instead of a supplement. So it's a higher designation. What's the difference? Well, supplements have a bioavailability and absorbability rate of about 35%. Our products all have a bioavailability and absorbability of 85%, so more than double the bang for your buck. So much better than anything you can buy in a store off the shelf. Because it's rated as a food is there's no problem with age, pregnancy, or interaction with any medications. If you can eat food, you can take these products. So all natural, gluten-free, vegan, kosher. So it covers all of those different things, a wide spectrum of things. For example, you see commercials for folks that are trying to get something for weight loss, for probiotic health, for brain function health, for libido health. So all of those things are in these products. So I can also say the line and she'll like it too, but it works for both genders that way.
Oh, geez. He doesn't swear, but he talks about this stuff. Sorry.
But it works for about one of the, I'll tell you a very short, funny story. Before the pandemic, when we used to have the big social meetings, I was in a meeting and this absolutely very, very attractive young Asian lady went to the front of the room to tell her story. And she talked about how her hair, her nails, her skin were all doing fantastic things. And then she ended with, and my libido is off the charts and my boyfriend can't keep up with me. And, and everybody perked up because the women wanted to hear more about the hair, the skin, and the nails. And all the men wanted to find out, where do I get this stuff and how do I get it into my significant other?
Nice.
And if it does that for her, what's it going to do for me? So all of those things get addressed, and I hope I addressed that in a politically correct way.
You did great. Hey, we don't do politically correct means you think something else. So no, we don't do that here. We don't do PC here.
But for anybody interested in the rest of the story, if you're a business builder and you're interested in getting involved in something that is happy, healthy, and well for helping people with all of their health and wellness issues, then please go to my website. There's all sorts of ways to get in touch with me, to fill out your contact information so that we can connect the dots and get you going. And even if you're not interested in a business opportunity, at least for those that you love and care about, consider getting these products into your body so that you can also be, everybody hasn't been vaccinated yet. And vitamin D deficiency is one of the things that is going on with the people that are having severe reactions to COVID. So we all need to be as healthy as possible with our immune systems. And what better way to do it with something that is organic.
And you use it, right? You
kosher and all natural.
He's not just a salesman. He is he uses it himself. And I think that speaks volumes.
There are testimonials, also video testimonials on the website of me explaining what it's done for me. I have a personal testimonial that proved to me that the products work incredibly well. I was given a not so rosy outlook for a particular issue by modern medicine that said that they couldn't do anything about it. And this product totally turned everything around for me with regard to that particular issue. So, and like I said, I've seen dozens of other people tell their testimonial stories that have done. So there's no medical claims being made here. However, we are able to share testimonials with regard to things that people have actually experienced and done. And that's where the bonus of that sharing of information comes from.
Cool.
So
Well,
thank you
thank you.
very
And
much,
we're going to
Kim.
put Don's information in the, this will be a video eventually online, and I'm going to, in the comments and in the description, I'll have his information as usual. And Don, I cannot thank you enough for being here. You
Thank
are
you very, very
wonderful,
much
and the
for the
information is
opportunity.
great.
Glad to come back anytime that you wish to
Oh,
help out any way that I can.
I will be having you back. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody. And please forgive me that I have skipped so many people. It's a little bit crazy for me. And I just love having Don here, and I'm kind of hypnotized by it. And I can't thank everybody enough for being here.
Glad to be of service. Glad to help out
you.
any way that I can.
So check out his information, which will be in the descriptions. And if you have some time, check out some of the videos. Some of my videos that I put on are personal from me that I do. And then some of them are, because I haven't been able to keep up being one person, I've tried to fill in some videos. And Michael, you got to see the drawings. I showed them all at the very beginning. I showed all the beautiful, beautiful drawings that he did. If you're interested in that, we're also going to put, I hope I'm showing it right. We're going to put that on in the descriptions as well. Check out, at the very beginning of this video, I showed them all. And thank you so much, everybody. And don't be a stranger. At the very top, I have how you can PM me and write to me. And if you want to send me something you think's really important, cutting edge, last second just came out, please send it to me. I always appreciate people who are my friends and viewers. Okay.
Thank you so much, Kim, and everybody. We all appreciate you. We love you very much with regard to all the great and wonderful things that you do. You provide an incredibly important voice in this day and time with regard to what's going on in our country and in our world today. You are not good at patting yourself on the back, so I will help do that.
You're very kind.
A very highly educated professional woman who is a homemaker, a family person that has done wonderful things both in the community as well as for your own personal family. And these are things that people need to know about that make you an exemplary citizen in our society today. And we appreciate you very, very much.
Thank you, Don. That's awfully sweet of you. I love my fellow humans like I love my family. And I know that sounds really weird. I promise, I was born that way. I really, truly do. And it just kills me, some of these injustices. And I'm not just going to sit and watch. And a lot of people think, why is she doing it? What is she getting out of it? What I get out of it, it's all about me. I can't sit and watch. And that's all it is. A lot of people are like, what is that white lady doing? But that's the truth. I hate injustice. I was born that way. So, Don, you are wonderful. Thank you for the sweet compliments. There's nothing I'd rather be doing.
We're all well-deserved.
Except for eating ice cream, maybe. Well, that's not nothing I'd rather be doing than standing up for what's so obviously right. I truly believe that's the way life should be.
So glad to be able to help make some small contribution to your
you do great. You're like the popular dude. All right. I'll say goodnight to everybody, and don't be a stranger, okay? Good night. Thank you so much, Don. All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.